when you was growing up, you were probably told that you had to be the biggest guy or you needed to lift the heaviest weight. I'm going to say as well that when it comes to being the biggest person, it is okay if that's what you really want. But you have to realize that when it comes to being the biggest person, sometimes you may be able to lift the heaviest thing, but it's really hard for you to move around. And you want it to be that you're into fitness because you're able to move around. And that's the way that I look at it. Because when it comes to fitness, you should be able to at least run, you should be able to walk when you need to. Many people may watch this and they may have been told different fitness myths, but I'm just telling you based on my experience of what it's like to be on the other side of that. And I'm going to say that when it comes to really another fitness myth, you don't need to lift the heaviest weight. You don't feel your muscles being worked out because what you're doing heavier weights, and then you realize that your form is not correctly. It's obviously good to push yourself when you're trying to lift heavier weights, but you don't want it to be that if you don't have good form, that you don't want that thing to really hold you back. In fact, you need to have both. Because if you're able to push yourself and you're able to lift heavier weights, but you also have good form, then that's really important rather than lifting heavier weights and then you realize that your muscles are not being worked out at all. Because for example, the reason why you're going to the gym and you're trying to progressively overload is because you're trying to go above your limits, but then also you need to track everything. Another thing that I'm going to say in terms of fitness myths, so in terms of your diet, you have to realize that not everyone has to fit one diet. They may be allergic to certain foods, or they may not even like the food. And because they don't like the food, they realize that they're eating more of the foods that they really like to make up for it. And when you're eating more of the foods that you like to make up for food that you really didn't like, you start to crave food more than you really need to. And when you start to crave food, you realize that you're eating more calories than you really need to. And when you start to do that, you realize you're not even tracking it in the first place. And when nothing is really tracked, you realize that it can hold you back. Because some people, when they don't track, they don't know if they're losing weight or gaining weight. Another thing that I almost forgot to say, in terms of a fitness myth, you may realize that the most time that you spend at the gym, it means that you're working out your muscles. And that's what I'm going to say is a complete myth. And another thing that I'm going to say, for example, when people wake up and they go to the gym first thing in the morning, it's not something that everyone has to do. You have to start adapting things to your lifestyle. When I say things, you need to adapt your diet and your fitness exercises to really your lifestyle. You might not be in the same area of where you used to live before, and that's not what the video point is. The main thing that I'm trying to say, everyone has the same 24 hours, but not everyone is doing the same thing in 24 hours. So I'm going to say it doesn't matter if you go to the gym and exercise first thing in the morning, or it's in the afternoon or in the evening. When I say adapt your diet to your lifestyle, it's because, for example, you may be busy near the beginning of the day, but then later on you're able to do what it is that you want. And the other thing could be true where you're not really busy throughout the day, but then later on you're really busy. So that's why you need to adapt what you're eating and what you're exercising to really your lifestyle. As long as you can squeeze your fitness routine into your lifestyle, then there's no issue of what time you really do it. And when you decide to walk more, you realize that you're getting more steps in. Because you're exercising more, you can eat more. And that's really the same thing when it comes to exercising less, but that means you're eating less. And you have to realize the way that you know that you're gaining weight is to really look at your face. It's not just because you're bloated with water. A sign that you're gaining weight, you can look at your face. Because when it comes to your face, you realize that you can't really deny it. In photos and videos, you can't really hide the weight that you gain on your face. And I'm going to say this because, for example, if you are gaining weight, you just need to exercise more so that you can lose weight. So what I'm going to say, in terms of gaining more calories and gaining more weight, you don't always have to eat more food. You can at least drink more water. I know water is 0 calories, but you can also try to add something to your water to make it flavored. So you can add if I'm not mistaken, you can add protein powder to really your water and make it into a protein shake. And that could be before your exercise so that you have more energy. You can also have smoothies because it's a healthier alternative to a milkshake. And for example, you may like a vanilla milkshake, you may like a strawberry milkshake, or even a chocolate milkshake. And also, when you're eating cereal, you're adding milk to that. And that's not something that I'm trying to do because I'm trying to maintain my weight. But you need to realize some of you may have 2 to 3 bowls of cereal you completely forget about the calories that you get from cereal, because cereal is like a high calorie meal, and it's normally good for when people are trying to gain weight. It's not good for people that are trying to lose weight and maintain their weight. And the last thing that I'm going to say before I end this video, so for example, when you go to the gym, some people may say that you should just do one exercise, or they say that you should do a few exercises if you want to at least gain more abs, you want to gain a bigger chest. Like for example, when it comes to chest, you might just do bench press. But then also when it comes to really abs, you might just do crunches or really sit-ups. And that's technically what I have been doing. When you're able to do compound exercises, you realize that you're able to work out more muscle group at once. So when you're able to work out more than one muscle group, like for example, when I said about chest and I said about abs, if you start to do dips, and if you can't do dips, you can do assisted dips where the machine can really help you to do a dip. And it's the same thing with pull-ups. If you can't do a pull-up, it's good to do assisted pull-ups, because when it comes to pull-ups and dips, you're not only working your upper body strength, but then also you're working on your chest, you're working on your shoulders. And when it comes to dips, you're working out on your triceps. And when it comes to pull-ups, you might be working on your triceps and your biceps. The most important thing is just to really track your reps, to track the exercises that you're doing, to track your activity level and really your diet. And if you realize that you're eating an unhealthy diet, you can just eat the same foods and then just track it. And then once you've tracked it, you realize that all you have to do is just replace it with healthier alternatives and to increase your activity level no matter what. Because when you start to increase your activity levels, you realize there's a hormone called endorphins, and it makes you more happier throughout the day. And especially when the weather's good, you're more happier. So that's all I got to say, and I'll see you in another video.